Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, June 24th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Saturday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the London series between the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals. We're going to see Justin Steele and Adam Wainwright on the mound in this one in London Stadium in the UK. Now, the last time we saw baseball, Major League Baseball, in London, it was 2019 between the Yankees and Red Sox. Now, the Cubs and Cardinals were supposed to play in 2020 in London, but of course the pandemic canceled those games, and now we're seeing this series here in 2023. Now, back in that Yankees-Red Sox two-game set, they were both very high-scoring games. 17-13 was the first final score, and then 12-8 the second. So there's no surprise to see the total for this game open up at 14.5 runs. I like the over in this game. You know, Adam Wainwright not having the best season, a 5.56 ERA on the year, despite that 3-1 winning record. I do think the Cubs will be able to get to him. Doesn't really miss a lot of bats. He's been giving up some sharp contact as of late, 3 home runs in his last 2 starts. So, I do think the Cubs will be able to get to him. But when you look at the numbers for the St. Louis Cardinals, they're really improving against left-handed pitchers. Top 10 in baseball in WRC plus against lefties in the last 30 days. Justin Steele's a solid option, but at this, in this London stadium where runs are usually easy to come by, I do expect the Cardinals to get to him for a few runs early on. I'm going to take the over here in Chicago, St. Louis. Next up, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the San Francisco Giants. Merrill Kelly going for Arizona. No official starter for the Giants right now. Could be another bullpen game for San Francisco. They've used quite a few of those over the last couple of weeks. And, they're going to have to use probably more with the injury to Alex Cobb, who was just placed on the IL last week. Now, Merrill Kelly's pitching well this year, a 9-3 record and a 2.9 ERA. His last start against the Milwaukee Brewers, 7 innings of work, only 1 run allowed, and 7 strikeouts in that game. Makes it back-to-back 7 strikeout performances for Merrill Kelly against solid teams in the Brewers and Phillies. I think Kelly pitches well in this game. Arizona's a very good lineup to back him up. San Francisco's bullpen's been really solid this year, but I do think that this pitching staff, it's been used quite a bit in the last couple of series. I do think Arizona will be able to get to him for enough runs for Kelly to win this game in the end. So right now, just a lean with no official starter for San Francisco, but I like the Diamondbacks in this one on the money line. Next up, we go to the NL East as the New York Mets take on the Philadelphia Phillies. This one's going to be a 4:05 Eastern start time on Fox Sports 1. Carlos Carrasco and Christopher Sanchez are your starters. Carlos Carrasco is just really struggling in 2023. He's got a 6.34 ERA. And yes, his numbers are better on the road, but they're still not great. And I don't really like his chances in this game against a tough Philadelphia Phillies lineup that has improved over the last month or so. Christopher Sanchez has really stepped it up in the last couple of games. His first 2 starts at the major league level this year, 4 1/3 of 3-run baseball. Wasn't the best against the Rockies, but it was still good enough for a win for Philadelphia. And then his last outing, 4 innings, 1 hit, and 5 strikeouts against the A's back on June 17th, and another Phillies win in extra innings. I think Sanchez gives the Phillies 4 decent innings here. I think the Phillies bullpen's also solid, solid option right now. And with Carrasco on the other side, I think the Phillies get plenty of run support. So give me the Philadelphia Phillies on the money line at home. Next up is the Seattle Mariners taking on the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to see Dean Kramer and Bryce Miller on the mound in this one. I think the Mariners have the slight advantage in the starting pitching matchup, but I also think they have a pretty sizable advantage in the bullpen in this game. I like the Mariners' chances on the road in this one. You look at Seattle and Baltimore's bullpen in the last 30 days. Baltimore at the beginning of the season, one of the best bullpens in baseball, but now in the last month they have a 4.95 ERA, which is the 5th steepest in the league, while the Mariners the 5th lowest SIERA in terms of the expected numbers. Mariners bullpen missing a lot of bats, earning a lot of strikeouts, 10.35 Ks per 9, one of the best in baseball, top 5 in baseball. So I do think Seattle has a big advantage in the pitching department in this game. Offensively, we know Seattle's been pretty inconsistent, but I like what I saw from them in the final game of that series against the Yankees, where they just found a big offensive boost in the first few innings, scored 10 runs in a 10-2 win. I like their chances against Dean Kramer, who has not been great at Camden Yards, and the struggling Baltimore bullpen. So give me the Seattle Mariners on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the New York Yankees. John Gray and Luis Severino are your starters. I got to go with the Rangers in this game. I don't trust the Yankees lineup right now, and I also don't love Luis Severino's chances in this one against a very good Rangers lineup. Severino's last 4 starts, he gave up 3 earned runs in his last game, 4 total runs against the Red Sox in a 4-1 Yankees loss. Before that, 5 earned runs, 6 total runs, a home run against the New York Mets in the Subway Series. Before that, he gave up 3 home runs and 4 earned against the White Sox And before that, 7 earned runs and 3 homers against the Dodgers. Severino is just plainly not in good form, and he's facing one of the tougher lineups in baseball in the Texas Rangers. While John Gray, he's been excellent this year, a 2.96 ERA. Now, his first start back from his injury was not great. We know that, 2 1/3 innings, 6 earned against the Blue Jays. But it goes to show you how good this Rangers lineup is. They were able to back him up, and they were able to find an 11-7 win in the end. So even if Gray is not as sharp as we've seen him at the beginning of the season, I still think the Rangers win this game. So give me the Texas Rangers on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Oakland A's taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Hogan Harris and Jose Barrios are your starters. Now, when you look at Hogan Harris's ERA on paper this season, 4.45 doesn't look great, but really most of those runs and most of the damage was done when he entered the game out of the bullpen in a mop-up role against the New York Mets in a 17-6 final score in favor of New York. He had 6 earned runs. He only got 1 out in an inning with 5 walks. He just really struggled in that game, but he pitched pretty well in the minor leagues. They brought him back up, May 27th, and since then he's been really sharp. In the month of June alone, 23 innings of work, a 3.13 ERA. He's keeping the ball on the ground. He's limiting the free passes, which is important, and he's only given up 2 home runs in his last 23 innings. Actually, only 2 home runs in his last 28 innings of work. So I think he pitches well in this game. The Blue Jays have certainly improved their numbers against lefties, but overall this year, not the best numbers for Toronto. Jose Barrios, his last start's 5 earned runs, 8 base hits, and a homer. I think he's a little bit overvalued in this game. I know he's pitched well overall this season, but coming off that really rough start, I think there's some value with the Oakland A's here on the road. So give me the 1.5 runs here with Oakland on the road. Next up, it's the Atlanta Braves taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Jared Schuster going for Atlanta. No official starter for the Reds in this one. Cincinnati, they've hit lefties very well this season. In the last 30 days, they're number 3 in baseball in both team OPS and isolated power with a pretty low strikeout rate to go with it. They're also 3rd in WRC+, and you're facing a lefty that I'm not really the biggest fan of, and Jared Schuster, who has struggled on the road, 5.4 ERA away from home in 15 innings of work. And when you look at his last 3 starts against the A's, the Nationals, and the Rockies, 3 really weak lineups, he's only had 3 strikeouts in his last 16 innings of work. That's really concerning for me. It's a 7-3 walk-to-strikeout ratio. To me, that's just not going to get it done, and I do expect some regression going forward. His lineup has been able to back him up, and that could be the case here. But I think Cincinnati really gets to him early on. So with no official starter listed for Cincinnati, I'm leaning towards the Reds in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the battle of the Sox between Boston and Chicago. We're going to see James Paxton and Lance Lynn on the mound. And this one, I think this is a pitching mismatch. James Paxton, outside of that one game against the Angels on May 24th, he's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all the rest of his starts so far. And in the month of June, 19 1/3 innings, 24 strikeouts, and a 2.33 ERA with 3 quality starts along the way. Missing bats, he's limiting a home run ball, only 1 home run in the month of June so far. And I think he's a good option here for Boston. Chicago is known to be a lineup that hits lefties pretty well, but in the last 30 days, they're 18th in baseball in WRC+, so their strikeout rate's also pretty steep at 23.4%. Their walk rate is way down at 5.4%. That's the worst in baseball. I think Paxton pitches well. We know it's just been really tough to trust Lance Lynn this year. He's had some good outings, but mostly bad outings. And, his last game, he had 16 strikeouts and 7 innings against the Mariners. It still wasn't good enough. He gave up 3 earned runs and a 5-1 White Sox loss. His bullpen has not been great. The offense is not trustworthy, and he's really struggling in guaranteed rate field. So give me the Boston Red Sox on the money line on the road. Next up, it's the Kansas City Royals taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Jordan Lyles and Yanni Chirinos are your starters. I'm going to take the over in this game. I don't really trust either of these bullpens. I don't love either of these starting pitching options. Jordan Lyles 0-11 this year with a 6.72 ERA. Yes, he's coming off a quality start. That was against the Detroit Tigers, one of the worst lineups in baseball against righties, and he only had 3 strikeouts in that game through 6 innings. It was still a Royals loss, 6-4 the final. Most of his losses this year have been on the run line. The Royals have lost most of his starts on the run line, and he's got even worse numbers on the road with an 0-5 record and an 8.35 ERA, facing this very good Tampa Bay Rays lineup. I don't love Lyles' chances, but I also don't love this Rays bullpen. It hasn't been great this season. I do think Kansas City, we saw in the first game, they were competitive offensively. I think they'll be able to do so in this game. So give me the over here in Kansas City, Tampa Bay. Next up, it's the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Freddie Peralta and Tanner Bybee are your starters. There's no doubting that Tanner Bybee has struggled as of late. His last 9 innings of work, 15 base hits, and 9 earned runs with 3 home runs allowed. But those two teams, the Padres and Diamondbacks, have actually really turned it on offensively as of late. While the Brewers, they're one of the worst teams offensively in baseball in the last month. They have the second highest strikeout rate against righties in the last 30 days at 27.6%. the second worst team OPS in baseball against righties in the last month, and they are dead last in baseball in WRC plus against righties. So this is a bounce back spot here for Tanner Bybee, I think. And Freddie Peralta on the other side is a strikeout-dependent starter that's given up a lot of sharp contact, a lot of home runs as of late. The Guardians may not have a lot of power in their lineup, but they still do a really good job of limiting strikeouts at the dish. An 18.8% strikeout rate in the last 30 days against righties is second lowest in baseball. So they should be able to put the ball in play almost every at-bat in this game against Peralta. Yes, he's coming off a decent start against the Pirates, and it was good enough for a Milwaukee win, but I don't think it's going to be enough here on the road for him. So give me the Cleveland Guardians on the money line at Progressive Field. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Miami Marlins. Osvaldo Bido and Brian Hoeing are your starters. I like what I've seen from both of these options on the mound here. Osvaldo Bido in 10 innings of work, no home runs, 13 strikeouts, a solid 3.6 ERA. His expected numbers are pretty good as well. I think he pitches well in this game. Brian Hoeing on the other side, 30 innings of work. He's got a 2.7 ERA so far. Even better numbers at Lone Depot Park, facing a Pirates offense that has struggled this year, overall against righties, and in the last 30 days where they're 25th in the league in WRC+. I like the under in this game in the first 5 innings between Miami and Pittsburgh. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ronel Blanco and Bobby Miller are your starters. Yeah, Bobby Miller struggled in his last outing, that's for sure. He gave up 7 earned runs in 5 2/3 innings, but really, he was pitching well in that game up until the 5th inning, where he gave up those 4 earned runs, then 3 more runs in the 6th inning, and all of a sudden, it's a 15-0 final score in favor of San Francisco, a game that just got away from the Dodgers in the end. But Bobby Miller, up until that point, pitching very well for Los Angeles. He's missing bats. He's done. He only gave up 1 home run in that game, and that makes it only 1 home run on the season. 28 2/3 innings with 28 strikeouts. He's got really good velocity on his fastball. I think he pitches well. I think he bounces back in this game. And Ronel Blanco, his control's been off this year. He's walked a lot of batters, 16 walks in 29 innings of work. His last start was not great against the Reds. 5 2/3 innings, 7 base hits, 5 earned runs, and 2 home runs. It makes it 4 home runs in his last 11 2/3 against the Reds and Blue Jays. I think the Dodgers are the side here, so give me the Los Angeles Dodgers on the money line. Next up, it's the Minnesota Twins taking on the Detroit Tigers. Pablo Lopez and Reese Olson are your starters. I like the Twins on the run line in this game. Pablo Lopez has pitched much better on the road than he has at Target Field this season. On the road in 43 innings of work, 50 strikeouts, and a 2.72 ERA. Facing a Tigers team that in the last 30 days against right-handed pitching is ranked 22nd in baseball in WRC+. I think Lopez has a quality outing. I think Reese Olson's also really regressed in his last couple of games. He had a really good start to his first few games at the major league level. Since then, in his last 9 1/3 innings of work, he's given up 11 total runs. 9 of those were earned, 3 home runs along the way. He had 8 strikeouts in his last game, but that was against the Kansas City Royals. I do think the Twins are a much tougher lineup to face. Give me the Minnesota Twins here on the road on the run line. Next up, it's the San Diego Padres hosting the Washington Nationals. Josiah Gray and Michael Wacha are your starters. Yeah, I made the claim that I thought Josiah Gray would have an ERA above 4 by the end of the season if he did not make any changes to his game, and we're starting to see him regress quite a bit. In his last couple of starts, 12 innings of work against the Cardinals and Astros, 2 losses for the Washington Nationals, 15 base hits, 10 earned runs, and 4 home runs in those 2 games. He's been better on the road this season than he has at Nationals Park, but I still don't love his chances against a Padres team that's really improving things offensively against lefties and righties. In the last 30 days, they're top 15 in WRC plus against righties. So I like their chances against Josiah Gray. Michael Wacha has been very sharp lately. A 2.51 ERA at Petco Park this season. Now a sub-3 ERA overall this year. In the month of June, a 1.54 ERA. In the month of May, a 0.84 ERA. He's been one of the hotter pitchers in baseball in the last 2 months or so, and I like his chances here. So give me the San Diego Padres on the run line. And for the final game for Saturday's card in Major League Baseball, we head to Coors Field as the Angels take on the Rockies. Griffin Canning and Chase Anderson are your starters. We're starting to see Chase Anderson regress in quite a big way in his last couple of games. His last start against the Braves, 3 innings, 7 earned runs, and 2 home runs against one of the tougher lineups in baseball, 4 walks to go with it. Now, the Angels may not be the Braves, but they're still a solid lineup against right-handed pitchers in the last 30 days. The Braves are number 1 in WRC+. The Angels are number 3, though, so I do expect Chase Anderson to struggle quite a bit in this start. Griffin Canning has a little bit of Coors Field experience. He pitched 1 start there in his career so far. It really wasn't that bad of an outing for Canning. I think he pitches well enough for the the Angels to win this game in the end. So give me Los Angeles on the money line on the road. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in the MLB. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.